Chapter 2. Gracker. Part of my brain was screaming, "Run, you fool, run!" Part of my brain was going, "This is the coolest thing that will ever happen to you in your entire life." My body, ignoring both parts of my brain, just shook. A long ramp began to extend from the door of the ship. It stretched to the edge of the papier-mâché tub, then stopped. A moment later, a tiny green alien, 2 inches tall at the most, stepped onto the ramp. He had a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a face like a shaved gorilla. Little nubs, like baby horns, sprouted from his high forehead. His suit was brick red with gold trim at the neck and shoulders. My first impulse was to pick him up. I think this was because he looked so much like the toys I had been playing with since I was the Thing's age. Stepping forward, I reached out for him. All right, that was stupid. But I was feeling pretty addled at the moment, and didn't do anything to unaddle me when the alien pulled out a ray gun, pointed at my head and said, "One more move, and I ventilate your skull." Was this a sign that they hadn't come in peace? Or was it merely an indication of how stupid I had been? It didn't matter. Raising my hands, I began to back away from the alien. After 2 steps, I tripped and landed on my butt. "Who are you?" I asked from my new position on the floor. "My name is Gracker," said the little green alien. "I am the commander of this mission." "What mission?" "My crew and I are agents of the Galactic Patrol. We have been sent to this miserable backward planet to capture a notorious criminal, known and feared across the stars. Unfortunately," and here he looked down at the vat of papier-mâché, "we seem to have encountered some difficulties. We need your help. Therefore, I am making you a deputy." "Beg your pardon?" "Refused," said Gracker. "Provision 13.4.7.6 of the Galactic Legal Code gives me the right to deputize natives of underdeveloped planets in cases of emergency. If you resist, you may find yourself under arrest and heading for a trial on Alpha Centauri. Unless you want to spend the rest of your miserable little life pounding rocks on an asteroid, I would suggest you do as I say." The guy was only 2 inches tall, but as long as he was holding that ray gun, he was as much of a bully as Billy Becker. "I don't like him, Roddy," said Little Thing 2. "Make him go away." "Silence, lava," snapped Gracker. "Is he a who?" asked Little Thing 1. I had read them Horton Hears a Who the night before. "Tell them to be silent," ordered Gracker, pointing his ray gun in the general direction of right between my eyes. "Can it, kids?" I said softly. "I have to talk to the man." "I want to play with him," said Little Thing 1, stretching her pudgy, paste-covered hands towards Gracker. "Back, lava!" cried Gracker. He pulled the trigger on the ray gun. It made a tiny whining sound. A red light, no bigger than one of those leads you use in an automatic pencil, hit the edge of the papier-mâché tub. After drilling a perfect, tiny hole right through the metal, it went on into the floor. It wasn't as easy to see, but I figured it was making a perfect tiny hole there as well. The hole was really tiny, but even a tiny hole that went all the way through your head could cause a lot of problems, like death. "Linda, get back!" I snapped. Thing 1's lower lip began to tremble, and a big tear rolled down her cheek. "I want to play with him, Roddy," she whimpered, even as she backed up. "Now see what you've done?" I said to Gracker. Before he could answer, another alien came scuttling out of the ship. This one had yellow skin, at least what I could see of it was yellow. Most of the new alien was covered by a sleeveless high-collared robe that hung from its neck to its feet. The robe itself was blue, but I couldn't make out the exact shade because it kept shifting. Under the robe, which was open, was a long-sleeved tunic. The alien itself had a high, bald head with big brow ridges, though not as big as Gracker's, a broad, flat nose, and huge, pointed ears. "Gracker, Gracker," it sighed. "I knew you should have let me come out first. You're going to create a mess if you're not careful. At least let me change modules for you." Something about the way this alien talked
gave me my first hint that it was a female. While Gracker muttered and grumbled, she reached a four-fingered hand up to the back of his head and pulled out something that would have been about the size of a very short pencil, if the aliens had been our size. After fumbling in her pocket for a moment, she produced another object about the same size and jammed it into the back of Gracker's skull. Immediately, he seemed to relax. "Diplomatic module," said the second alien, looking at me and smiling. "Allow me to introduce myself, as I should have from the beginning." The last half of this sentence, spoken sharply, was directed more at Gracker than at me. Gracker wrinkled his turned-up nose at her. "My name is Madame Pong," said the second alien, turning back to me. "I am diplomatic officer for the good ship Ferkel." "I suppose you want me to take you to our leader?" I asked. "Gracious no!" she cried, her voice filled with horror. "We have no interest in establishing formal contact with your planet at this point." "Why not?" I asked, wondering if I should be offended on behalf of all mankind. "The time is not ripe," she said with a smile. "Now, while Gracker is correct that he can insist on your help, had it been I speaking, I would simply have requested it, as I will now. Would you help us, please?" "What do you want me to do?" "Simply remove our ship from this mess and take us someplace where we can enlarge it without destroying anything." "How big is it going to get?" I asked nervously. "Considerably bigger than this room," snapped Gracker before Madame Pong could answer. "Were you trying to enlarge it a minute ago?" I yelled, shuddering at the thought of what might have happened if they had succeeded. Madame Pong's skin turned orange. "We were not aware we had landed inside a dwelling. We're having some technical problems." She glanced down at the papier-mâché. "My guess is that our sensing equipment has been clogged by this strange swamp." "But you could have killed us." "We didn't," said Gracker, as if that made it all better. "But you could have." "Will you take us outside, please?" asked Madame Pong, folding her hands in front of her and making a little bow. "Remember, we do need to enlarge the ship. It is in your best interest that we do so outdoors." When she put it that way, I didn't have much choice. "I'll have to bring the things," I said. Madame Pong looked puzzled, so I gestured to the twins. "Perhaps my language program is defective," she said. I did not think this culture referred to children as things. It's a long story. I'll tell you about it later if you really want to know. I turned and headed for the door. "I'll be right back. I have to leave a note for my mother." A beam of red light shot past my head and burned a tiny pit in the doorframe. "Hey!" I cried, spinning around. "I'm sorry, but you cannot leave this room unless I accompany you," said Gracker quietly. I was surprised to hear him speak so politely, until I remembered the diplomatic module Madame Pong had jammed into the back of his head. "Why not?" "Security. For all I know, you're heading off to contact your government." They wouldn't listen. "Nonetheless, I must accompany you." I looked at Madame Pong. She nodded and said, "It is necessary." "How do you want to do this?" I asked, remembering Gracker's reaction the last time I'd reached for him. "I'll ride on your shoulder." Before I could ask if he wanted me to pick him up, he flew from the ramp of the ship to my shoulder. "Rocket back," he said when he saw the surprised look on my face. Settling into a sitting position on my shoulder, he pointed his ray gun at my head and added, "Don't try any funny stuff." I nodded and headed for the kitchen. It took me a few minutes to find a paper and pencil, but finally I left a note telling my mother I had taken the twins for a walk. The delay made Gracker impatient, and he was muttering angrily as we started back toward the room. I thought maybe a little conversation would help him calm down, so I said, "Just how tall will you be when you get back to your normal size?" "That is classified information," he replied fiercely. started to get mad. Then I thought, if he wants to be that way, let him. I shrugged, telling myself to ignore his rudeness. Shouting with rage, Gracker scrambled up my collar. Grabbing the edge of my ear with one tiny hand, he poked his ray gun into my skin and shouted, "Freeze or fry, traitor!"